You're watching Bread and Roses, a weekly political social magazine that's broadcast in English and Persian via New Channel TV. Hello everyone, I'm Mariam Namazi.
And I'm Fari Bospuya. In this week's program, we'll be interviewing Armeen, the founder of Atheist Republic.
We'll also be talking about the country which has the best election in the world and a wonderful place for women, as well as fatwas on migration and a woman singing in a stadium where the Taliban executed people. We're trying to change up our program a bit. We're not going to have the same format as before. We were bored to death.
I've been told not to be boring.
Well, I think he was boring and I was as if I was on crack. So we're going to try and act normal.
Can we swap?
Yeah, let's swap.
All right, okay.
So we're going to start by discussing some of the high points and low points in the last week for us. And one of them, of course, was of Ayatollah Khamenei, the supreme spiritual leader. I don't know why I have to do that whenever I say that. It just sounds so bizarre. He's said
That's a part of the new format, isn't it?
he said recently that in Iran, Iran has the best elections in the world. Now, does it?
Yes, because for him, because this is the country that nobody's allowed to stand for election unless he agrees with it. Yes, yeah. Okay. It's like, Dr. Evil's approach to domination of the world.
No, it's funny because people are not allowed to run if he doesn't allow it. He pulls whoever he wants out of the ballot box and he can stay there for life.
That's the definition of the best election in the world, isn't it?
For him,
yes.
Yeah. And this goes again to the other topic of the week, which is about the status of women. The World Bank, which of course we all hate, but they've done a report on the status of women across the world. They've surveyed 193 countries. Now, guess which countries are the worst for women in the world?
The ones who have the best elections?
Definitely.
Anything to do with the Islamic-ridden and religious government?
Definitely. It's Iran, Iraq, Syria, Saudi Arabia, Jordan. Lovely, lovely places.
I wonder why. Because I thought, women have a lot of respect in Islamic societies.
Yeah.
That's what they say.
Well, it's sort of like, Khamenei saying it's the best place for elections. It's for him. It's the other thing we often hear is that Iran, in the constitution, it gives women full rights within the confines of Islam, which basically means
very narrow.
No rights at all. Yeah. Now, Ayatollah Sistani, he's the Shia head honcho in Iraq, the puppet of the Iranian regime. They're all buddies together. He's issued a fatwa in this huge migration crisis of refugees fleeing the region. What do you think he's so worried about?
He's worried that a lot of people are suffering from this?
No.
He's worried that, he's just thinking about why people are leaving Iraq and Syria?
No.
No. I don't know. Is he worried about the brain drain on Iraq?
Nope.
No, okay. You tell me, Mariam.
Sorry, that's just so funny. It's so not funny that it's funny.
Okay.
Sorry, he's worried about religion. And basically he's saying that if people go with the knowledge that they might risk losing their religion, their women's religion, their children's religion, if there's going to be sex and drugs and rock and roll, they shouldn't go. If they go, then it's a sin.
And they lose their religion because they might bump into atheists in Europe?
And just sane people who are not religious.
There's a lot of atheists in Iraq and secularists in Iraq we've seen in the recent demonstrations. So, what's going on? What is ISIS saying about this?
And what's interesting is this is, one of the friends of the Iranian regime, but also the US and all. Everybody loves Sistani. Now, his fatwa is very similar to what ISIS has recently said, which is that people fleeing, Islamic lands and going to the lands of the infidel are sinning. They're sinners, they're kafir, and they're going to be met by atheism and debauchery and sexual perversion and all the things that are fun in this world.
Yeah, and I think you'll see both of them, both factions of the Islamic sort of reactionary movement. They are doing exactly the same thing. ISIS and the Islamic regime sort of puppets in Iraq.
Yeah.
They're doing exactly the same thing.
What's interesting is that there is a crisis, you know, a human crisis of untold proportions. We're watching it unfold on our screens every day. And these people, from Sistani to ISIS, are worried only about maintaining religion and their rule and not about human beings. And that's another reason why religion stinks. We've been talking on this program quite a bit about religion. I don't know why we keep coming back to this issue, but it is very much in our faces all the time. But one of the things we've talked about is religion, you know, and its effects on the individual. Forget about society and all of that, the religious right and so on and so forth. And it can really mess people up so very badly.
Yeah, you could end up, well, you definitely become delusional and you may suffer from mental health. Sometimes I think you shouldn't take it seriously. Don't sort of follow it to the point, you know, exact point, because it's not good for you. So don't take it seriously. But at the same time, you need to take it seriously to criticize it and thoughtfully about that.
Definitely.
And I think on an individual basis, that's important.
Yeah. Well, let's listen to an interview I did quite a while back now when I was at a conference in Vancouver with Armeen, who started the Atheist Republic. He has a very, very interesting and inspiring story about how religion affected him and about his work founding the Atheist Republic. Stay with us. Hi Armeen, thank you for joining our program. I wanted to ask you about your background, why you became an atheist.
After, you know, as a kid, I was always interested in the topic of God and religion. At a very, very young age, I couldn't understand why more people weren't interested in it, because to me, people were suggesting that there's an afterlife, and when we die, we're going to go to heaven or hell, and that's going to be either we're going to be living in eternal happiness or eternal torture. And living in Iran, most people didn't seem to care about that much, that the possibility of that. They seem to just focus mostly on their daily lives, their careers, their education. But to me, it seemed like if this is something that could happen, that's what I need to be focusing on. So after when I became older and I realized now I have to take religion seriously if I want to make it to heaven, I became very religious. And during my religious period, when I wanted to study God, I wanted to know God, I wanted to be closer to God. And when I was studying God, I couldn't understand some of some of his commandments, some of the decisions that he would make based on what I read in the Quran. So because it didn't make sense to me, but because I still believed it to be true, I wanted to study other religions and to see, like, for example, why would God send people from other religions to burn forever, right? Because that was the teaching of the Quran. And through studying other religions, it seemed to me, I started thinking that it seemed like that religions are copied from each other, like not completely, but some aspects of them. And it started to look like maybe, just maybe, this is a man-made concept. And that was just the beginning of it. I could go into more detail, but for now, I just want to say that that's the history of religion. Was started the doubt.
I found interesting that you were saying that at one point you had become actually really religious, even not necessarily, your parents were not even that religious as you were. Explain what happened.
No, my parents were actually very liberal, and they got really scared when I became religious, because I was actually trying to make them more religious. I was really concerned about them. I was really concerned that they didn't pray, they didn't fast. They claim to believe in God, but to me it was like, why? Well, if you believe in God, you do believe in heaven and hell, then why are you not doing anything about it, right? And many times I ask people like, oh, I don't think God cares about that. God, creator of the universe, doesn't care about me drinking alcohol. Like, why would he care about that? He's the creator of the universe. Like, well, you don't think that, don't you want to make sure? Like, I think you're gambling your eternal life based on something that you're just guessing, right? So to me, that seemed very strange. So I really tried to get my mother especially not to burn forever. But because, I understood while I was trying to do that, I was like, but why would anybody want to burn my mother forever? She's a nice person, right? So that's what it started for me. But before I became very religious, so depending on what kind of Islam you're being taught, where you're learning Islam, this teaching is different. But the way I learned it in Iran, the way our teachers taught it to us is that for boys before age 15 and for girls before age 9, your good and bad deeds, they don't count. You have committed no sin before age 15 as a boy. So if you die before age 15, you die pure and you go to heaven. So for me, when I was terrified about the possibility of burning, and going to hell, whether it's forever or for a specific period of time, just burning, for years. I thought like I should avoid that, and I thought like why not more people are trying to find out ways to avoid that? I think that should be the number one priority of everybody, right? So to me, when they told me that if you die before age 15, you'll go to heaven, to me that seemed like a loophole. Like that's a loophole that everybody should take advantage of. Like I didn't understand why more people are not quitting this game when they can. Suicide in Islam is haram, right? So if you commit suicide, you go to hell. But not if you commit it before age 15, because you can't commit sin before age 15 as a boy. So if I commit suicide before age 15, I'll go to heaven. And then I could completely avoid even the chance of going to hell. So I took a chance. At around age 12, I jumped up of my school's building, the window. 12? Yeah. So I jumped out of the window. I wasn't like depressed or anything. I just wanted to make sure I go to heaven. I broke both my legs, my hand. I was in a wheelchair for 7 months. The effect that it had on my parents was the only reason why I didn't try it again, because in the hospital when I saw the state that my mother was like, I saw my father cry for the first time. I saw my brothers, and that was the only reason I never tried it again, because I didn't want to do that to them. And I was like, so when I reached 15, I was like, I guess I have to play this game, right? So, and to me now, when you think about it, it seemed really unfair. Like nobody asked, if you want to, play this game. You put in like, okay, I'm going to test you. Like, well, do you want to ask me if I'm going to take this test first? It seemed like, but now I was in it, I had to play it. So I tried to make sure I follow all the rules. Don't miss my prayers. Don't look at girls. Don't think about girls. Proved very hard. And that was like during your teenage years. So don't, fast during Ramadan, everything. But to me, most importantly, was to be close to God. Most of my teachers religious teachers seem to be concerned about very, the details of Islamic law. I wanted to be close to God. At that time, I didn't know what Sufism was, but maybe if I discovered it then, I would have been like, oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about, right? But because to me, it seemed like, why is everybody focusing on the 12 imams and, what should I do before I eat this, and what should I do after I get up, and, how long my beard should be, or like, to me, it seemed like I need to have a close relationship with my Creator. I need to understand what He wants from me, and His book, this is His book. This is the Quran. He's communicating with me directly, and I don't know what all these other people are talking about, right? So I try to understand God. I try to understand the Quran. But when I studied the Quran and when I tried to understand my God, the more I studied it, the less and less it's like, I think I would have not become an atheist if I did not become religious, very religious. If I was just moderate, just Muslim by name, but not Muslim by practice, I would always remain like that. But because I took Islam seriously and because I became very religious, I realized that this doesn't make sense. And when I studied history and I understood, in Iran, evolution and Big Bang theory, they don't have a problem with that. They teach that in school. That's just God's way of creating things. So even religious people in Iran believe in evolution. But history of religion is not something that they teach in school. That's just something I started reading in other books. And to me, seeing all these other religions making their own claims, I was like, well, how do when did I decide, at what point did I decide that Islam is the true religion, right? And at what point did I even decide that there's a God? Like, wait a minute, why do I even believe this? So I could go hunt. I'm going to go. At first, I didn't want to question it because I know God could see what I'm thinking, and I felt like I'm doing him dishonor. That's shameful. My creator, my best friend, the closest entity to me, I'm questioning him, and this is being so ungrateful. So I didn't even want to go there. But then I thought, if God is there, and I think he wants us to know his signs, that's why he puts his signs out there. So for me to go hunt for his signs, it's not a crime. And he would, in fact, if I find his signs, when I go out and look for his signs, and I find evidence for him, my faith would be even stronger. And I think that would be something that he would admire.
Let me ask you about Atheist Republic you've started, because it's quite a phenomenal movement. Tell us a bit about that.
Well, when I did become an atheist in Iran, I was the only atheist I knew. And I didn't know how many other atheists are out there. So I started a small online community called Iranian Atheists. It was on Orkut back then. And I was so shocked to see how many people joined it. And many of the Iranians that did join it as well, they were also shocked to see how many members were there. And I'm like, wow, there's so many atheists. They're like, I thought everybody's like, I thought I was the only one. I'm like, no, you're not the only one. We're all here. And we were all so shocked. And we were all so happy to find each other. And it felt like coming home to a family that you didn't even know you have. And it was so, right now there's so many Iranian atheist communities, but back then this was so shocking to us that there could be, before I did that, I felt like there must be something wrong with me. Am I so arrogant to think that I realized something that nobody else around me thinks could possibly be true? But when I found the community, I felt, we felt that we belong we're part of a community, and we're part of something that we discovered by ourselves together, and we could relate with each other, and it felt much less alone. And that feeling, and even to this day, after so many years, that led to Atheist Republic, because I felt like everybody in the world should be able to see that there's other atheists out there. And even after all this time with social media and so many people being online and open, still, people, when they find Atheist Republic and other atheist communities, they come and say like, wow, I didn't know there's so many of you out there. So that feeling, that sense of, the gay community in North America, they have done a fantastic job at showing, like just a few years ago when somebody realized that they were gay, they felt that there's something wrong with them. They felt like they shouldn't be talking about this. They shouldn't be open about this. The people, they were ashamed of who they are. And now the gay rights movement does a fantastic job at more people coming out, and people feeling, no, there's so many other people like me. I shouldn't be ashamed of this. I should be open about who I am and what I want. And I think like the atheist community is moving in that direction as well. More and more atheists are coming out, and it's not just about knowing atheists, but seeing that there's millions of us out there, and millions of us are trying to find each other. And when people see the numbers, I think it encourages them. When you come out as an atheist, it's not just for you. You're showing other people that there's nothing wrong with you, and that you should not be ashamed of who you are.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no worries.
Now for this week's program, we wanted to choose a wonderful video that's been going around in social media of Ariana Saeed. She's this wonderful Afghan singer, female singer, and it's of her singing in a stadium where the Taliban actually executed people
Yeah, I remember the days that Taliban was sort of people coming on the streets singing and dancing when Taliban was overthrown in the second round. And I was just it was so beautiful moment. And then you see again, it shows the true face of Afghan society. You know, people who actually want to enjoy life. And you see the young people in the football stadium just dancing and singing, and you know, it's just beautiful to see.
Yeah, it's lovely, especially when you think in a place like Iran, for example, a woman wouldn't be able to sing like that. In many places, a woman's voice is deemed haram and illegal. So it is something to watch it, and it does break so many taboos, and it does show, you know, the various faces of Afghanistan. One that can be conservative and Islamic, and one where there are so many people who enjoy women singing and celebrate it. Watch this clip. I hope you enjoyed that wonderful video. I hope you loved it. I mean, I think it's just really inspiring. I wonder what you think about the new format. I hope we didn't put you to sleep as we put ourselves to sleep the last time we watched our videos. Of course, our interviews are always fantastic. It's the two of us that's the problem.
Is it me, it's not you?
It's you, it's not me, yeah.
I get a point. Yeah.
No, it's me, I'm on crack, totally.
That was my line. Okay. Okay.
So I hope, you know, tell us what you think about the new format, if you have any suggestions. You know, so we'd love to hear from you. And we do have a Skype number, which is an answer phone, and you can actually leave messages on it, and we'll try and play some of your messages. So do leave some messages for us.
And you have Facebook. On Facebook page, you could leave messages for us. You could send us email.
Suggestions for issues you want us to discuss, interviews you want us to do.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
And that brings us to the end of the program. Yeah. From me and Mariam, goodbye till next week.
Hi, I'm Mariam Namazi.
And I'm Fariborz Bospuya.
We're hosting a program called Bread and Roses. It's a weekly program that's broadcast in Persian and English in the Middle East and North Africa, primarily Iran as well. And it's also shown on YouTube internationally.
And we've been doing this since last May. We're coming up to our year's anniversary, and we've had quite a lot of fun making these videos. We
discuss taboo-breaking, free-thinking ideas. The Islamic regime of Iran has called us immoral and corrupt.
And that's why you need to support us. We are the alternative voice in Middle East and North Africa.
Of corruption and immorality. So do support us. Here's a short video from Patreon that explains how you can help us with even just $1 a week. That's nothing. Support us.
Patreon lets fans become patrons of their favorite artists and content creators. It's different than Kickstarter because it's not about one big project that requires lots of funding. It's more for bloggers or YouTubers or webcomics, anyone who creates on a regular basis. Here's how it works. When you become a patron, you're agreeing to give an artist a tip of an amount you set every time they release a piece of content, whether it's a new song, a video, or a recipe. You can set a monthly maximum to make sure that you're always within your budget. Choose an amount, enter your payment information, and you're done. Becoming a patron allows you to view and post in the artist's stream, and in exchange for your support, artists offer additional patron packages, which might include monthly Google Hangouts, music production tutorials, pre-sale concert tickets, or anything they can offer as a way to say thanks. Patreon, empowering a new generation of content creators.